Islamophobia, contained in document A/76/L41, which has been tabled under Agenda Item 16 on the culture of peace. Mr. President, Islamophobia is a reality. If I may speak for a moment in my national capacity, I would like to recall that the issue of Islamophobia was first raised by my Prime Minister, Imran Khan, in his first address to the General Assembly on 27 September 2019, and he has since repeatedly called for international attention and efforts to address this adverse phenomenon. Mr. President, Islamophobia, its manifestations, hate speech, discrimination, and violence against Muslims, are proliferating in several parts of the world. Such acts of discrimination, hostility, and violence towards Muslims, individuals and communities, constitute grave violations of their human rights and violate their freedom of religion and belief. They also cause great anguish within the Islamic world. In his dedicated report on the issue of Islamophobia last year, the Special Rapporteur on freedom of religion or belief stated, and I quote, "Since 9/11, terrorist attacks, institutional suspicion, and fear of Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim has escalated to epidemic proportions. In such climates of exclusion, fear, and distrust, Muslims often feel stigma, negative stereotyping and shame, and a sense that they are suspect communities that have been forced to bear collective responsibility for the actions of a small fringe minority. The spread of Islamophobia, both in terms of phenomena's momentum and outreach, is particularly alarming these days, for it has emerged as a new form of racism characterized by xenophobia, negative profiling, and stereotyping of Muslims. The rise in hate crimes against Muslims, both offline and online, as well as discrimination in education, citizenship, immigration, employment, housing, and healthcare, among others, are well documented. The gender aspect of Islamophobia is also gaining prominence, unfortunately, with girls and women being targeted due to the mode of their dress and the general notion that Muslim women are oppressed and thus must be, quote, liberated, unquote. What indeed is worrisome is that Islamophobia continues to find strong resonance in the political sphere, ultimately leading to the institutionalization of Islamophobia through new legislations and policies such as discriminatory travel bans and visa restrictions. Various academic studies have revealed that Islamophobia is most visible in certain media and in the discourse of far-right groups and political parties who tend to exploit and build on the general fear of Islam for electoral gains. In some countries, anti-immigration and anti-refugee rhetoric has taken on an anti-Muslim overtone and has often become the central theme of political campaigns. It is also noted with grave concern that several media outlets continue to propagate fear and negative stereotypes against Islam and Muslims, notably by acting as a platform for widespread dissemination of anti-Muslim rhetoric. Despite its pervasive impacts, Islamophobia remains poorly understood, and discussions on how to address the impacts are often fraught and complex. It seems essential to promote greater information of this phenomena and promote solutions through greater understanding and full respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Noticing this disturbing global trend, numerous UN officials, including the Secretary General of the United Nations, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, several special rapporteurs of the Human Rights Council, and world leaders have underscored the importance of collectively addressing the problem of Islamophobia in recent years. Mr. President, the OIC's obligation to address the phenomena of Islamophobia stems directly from the Charter of the organization. The Islamic Summit Conference, at its third extraordinary session in Mecca, stressed the necessity to combat hate and fear of Islam and Muslims. In the aftermath of the deadly attack on two mosques in 2019, the 47th session of the OIC Foreign Ministers held in Niamey, Niger, adopted a resolution calling for the designation of 15 March as the International Day to Combat Islamophobia by the UN General Assembly. In accordance with that mandate, the OIC Group has tabled this draft resolution contained in document L41. From the OIC's perspective, the draft resolution we have presented serves to achieve the following objectives. 1. Raise international awareness about the growing phenomena of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hatred. 2. Send a clear message that the world opposes all forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, negative stereotyping, and stigmatization. 3. To promote the message of tolerance, peaceful coexistence, and interfaith and cultural harmony among all religions, races, and nations. And 4. To demonstrate, by commemorating this day, unfettered solidarity with all humanity, convey a strong message of respect for human dignity, and reiterate our common commitment to unity in diversity. The objective of observing this day is about uniting, not dividing. Mr. President, in view of this constructive approach, members of the OIC have held extensive exchanges over the past 12 months with all interested delegations on the proposal. A draft text was circulated a month ago. The OIC conducted 3 rounds of open, informal consultations on the draft resolution throughout the month of February. Following the conclusion of the open, informal consultations, the OIC also held extensive bilateral consultations with concerned delegations on the draft resolution. Based on the responses received, the text of the draft resolution was streamlined and revised multiple times to accommodate the concerns of all delegations. Even after tabling the resolution, the group remained engaged with concerned delegations. Based on further consultations with concerned delegations, the OIC has agreed to orally revise the text of operative paragraph 3 of the draft resolution, which will now read as follows, I quote, invites all member states, relevant organizations of the United Nations system, other international and regional organizations, civil society, private sector, and faith-based organizations to observe the International Day in an appropriate manner. Mr. President, we believe that the final text is balanced and should gather the widest possible support of member states of the United Nations. We are hopeful that it will be adopted by consensus. Through the observance of this day, the OIC wishes to build a better global understanding of Islam and Islamic precepts. We hope to convey through the General Assembly a message of international solidarity and cooperation. We count on the full support of all member states and the possible co-sponsorship of this important resolution. I thank you, Mr. President.
पाकिस्तान के मुस्तकिल मंदूब मुनीर अकरम इस्लामोफोबिया के हवाले से बयान दे रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि मजहबी आजादी हर शख्स का बुनियादी हक है और वज़ीर आज़म इमरान खान ने इस्लामोफोबिया के हवाले से आलमी दुनिया में आवाज उठाई। पीटीवी न्यूज से ये थी ताजा तरीन।
अल्लाहु अकबर أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
ये भी मौजूद है
किस
डिप्लोमेटिक एंगेजमेंट जो आप कह रहे हैं कि
नहीं मैं यही कह रहा हूँ ना